You know that feeling when you wake up, you grab your phone, and it all just works, right? We build our entire lives on this seamless digital foundation.
Now imagine you're in a new city, relying on your phone for everything. Directions, tickets, even lunch spots. And suddenly, the digital world just vanishes.
Now imagine you're in a new city, relying on your phone for everything.
Come on.
Directions, tickets, even lunch spots. And suddenly, the digital world just vanishes. But what happens when that foundation actually cracks? It always starts with that small, personal moment of confusion. Wait, is it just me?
That personal glitch? It's not just you. It's millions of people all at once. A crack in the invisible digital foundation we trust every day. That personal doubt quickly explodes into a collective confirmation. Headlines pop up, social media erupts. Something is very, very wrong.
You know that feeling when you wake up, you grab your phone, first thing, you check Gmail, you look up a route on Google Maps, maybe you watch a quick YouTube video. It all just works, right? We kind of build our entire lives on this seamless digital foundation, and we barely ever give it a second thought. But what happens when that foundation actually cracks? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. Because here's the thing. The incredibly complex, totally invisible infrastructure that powers our day-to-day, it can, and it absolutely does, break. So today we're going to perform a little autopsy on what happens when the digital world we all depend on just suddenly goes dark. It always starts with that small, personal moment of confusion, right? You tap an icon on your phone and nothing. The app just sits there, it won't load. The directions you need won't appear. And you ask yourself that one universal question. Wait, is it just me? Let's really ground this in a scenario you've probably felt. Imagine you're traveling somewhere new. You're completely relying on your phone for directions, for opening hours to that one museum you've wanted to see for years. You were almost there, and then the map just vanishes. Blank screen. Now what? You know, this quote from a Reddit user just captures that real-world frustration perfectly. It really highlights how these digital failures, they aren't just a little inconvenient. They actually erode the trust we put in these tools that are supposed to be essential, forcing us to, second-guess everything. And that personal moment of doubt, it very quickly turns into this huge collective confirmation. Headlines start popping up, social media just explodes with people asking the same question. And sites like Down Detector, they just light up with thousands upon thousands of reports. The feeling is mutual. Something is very, very wrong. Okay, so to really get what's going on, we have to pull back the curtain a little bit. We're going to use a massive Google disruption from back in 2019 as our case study, just to see how one tiny mistake can spiral into these enormous consequences. So after the outage, Google's vice president of 24/7, what a title, right? Benjamin Traynor-Sloss, he issued this apology. And this just goes to show how seriously they take this stuff. For them, downtime isn't just a glitch, it's a fundamental failure of their entire mission. So what really happened? It wasn't some dramatic cyber attack or anything like that. Nope. It all started with a simple configuration change, one that was meant for a small little group of servers. But, and here's the key, it was accidentally applied to a much, much larger number of servers. And that one mistake instantly choked the network, cutting its capacity by more than half and creating a massive digital traffic jam. Google used this brilliant analogy to explain how they responded. To save the most critical stuff, the system started dropping large, less urgent data packets, think streaming video, to make sure the small, vital packets, like your search query or an email command, could get through. It's just like a bicycle courier weaving through a totally gridlocked city to deliver one urgent letter. And the impact was, well, it was staggering. A 2.5% drop in YouTube views might not sound like much, but for 1 hour, that's a huge amount of lost content and revenue. Google Cloud Storage traffic dropped by a third. And get this, while only 1% of Gmail users were affected, that still translates to millions of people who were suddenly cut off from their main way of communication. Okay, so we know a single mistake was the trigger for that massive outage. But that brings up a bigger question. Why do these things happen at all? Especially to these tech giants with armies of brilliant engineers? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is a little more subtle than just a typo in the code. This gets to a really crucial point. A lot of the time, these failures don't come from the code itself, but from something called configuration. The Federal Trade Commission actually uses this great ice cream shop analogy. Think of it like this. The code is the recipe, but the configuration is the daily list of ingredients. You could have a perfect recipe, but if you add a new ingredient with an apostrophe in it, like cookies and cream, it could trigger some hidden bug and crash the entire system.
And I absolutely love this quote from the FTC. It just perfectly captures one of the biggest risks in software engineering. Pushing out a change to every single user all at the same time is incredibly risky. One tiny mistake can cause a complete global failure.
So companies really have two main ways to go. There's the big bang deployment, which is exactly as dramatic as it sounds, super high risk. Or there's the much safer incremental rollout. This is where you release a change to, say, 1% of your users, you watch it like a hawk, and if everything looks good, you gradually roll it out to more and more people. It contains the blast radius, so to speak, if something goes wrong.
The last piece of this puzzle is building resilient systems. See, the software programs are constantly talking to each other through these things called APIs. A well-designed, resilient API acts like a safety barrier. It makes sure that if one app makes a mistake, let's say your ice cream shop app crashes, it doesn't take down your entire phone with it.
So we've seen the personal frustration, we've seen the technical reasons why things break, but what is the actual real-world cost when these massive systems go down? Because believe me, it is far more than just a minor inconvenience.
This image really says it all. Our economy isn't just a collection of separate businesses anymore. It's this deeply interconnected digital web. A failure at a core service provider like Google or Amazon doesn't just hurt them, it sends these massive shockwaves through thousands of other businesses that rely on their infrastructure to even exist. And the financial cost? It is just mind-boggling. This data from a Deloitte report estimates the daily hit to GDP for every 10 million people when the internet goes down. For a highly connected country, we're talking about nearly $24 million per day. The more our economy gets tied to the internet, the higher the price of failure becomes.
But the cost isn't just about the immediate financial loss. Every single time a service goes down, it pushes users like you and me to try out alternatives. And, as analysts point out, some of those users might just find they like the alternative better. So a single outage can lead to a permanent loss of customers and, maybe more importantly, a permanent loss of trust.
So, if outages are just an inevitable part of our digital lives, where do we go from here? Well, the future of reliability is really being shaped by two big forces, giving us users more choices and building smarter, self-healing systems.
Now, on the user side, a really healthy ecosystem of alternatives is starting to pop up. From mapping, for instance, you're not just stuck with one option. You've got companies like WooseMap focusing on privacy, there's OpenStreetMap, which is this amazing community-driven project, and then you have TomTom, which excels in real-time traffic data. The point is, we now have choices based on what we actually need.
And this is where things get really cool on the industry side. We're seeing this shift from reactive to what's called autonomous operations, or AIOps. It's an evolution. We started with humans scrambling to respond to alarms after something broke. Now we're in this predictive phase, where AI can spot patterns and warn us of failures before they happen. But the ultimate goal? That's the autonomous stage. Systems that can predict an issue and then fix it automatically, often without a human even knowing something was about to go wrong. Which, of course, brings us to our final question. All this amazing technology, all this interconnection, is it making our digital world stronger and more resilient? Or are we accidentally building a global system so complex and so intertwined that it's just one big single point of failure, just waiting to happen? It's definitely something to think about the next time you open an app.
So here's the real question. Are we building a stronger digital world or a fragile system one step away from collapse? Today, we perform an autopsy on the digital blackout. We'll use a real-world case to see how one tiny mistake can spiral into global consequences, and ask if we're building a world that's resilient or one that's one glitch away from collapse.